I'm Ezra Levant. It's May 18th, and you're watching Battleground. Well, hello and welcome back. We've been doing this, I think this is our third week now. It's becoming a bit of a fun routine. Cheers, everybody. Instead of my second lunch, I just have one lunch a day now. And the other lunch hour from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we do what's called a Superchat. Superchat's not a word I came up with. It's a word that Google uses for how you can chat with me in real time on YouTube. We're also running this on Facebook Live. And when we figure out how to do it in 3 different ways, we'll add Twitter and Periscope too. So basically for 1 hour, I kibitz and you comment. If you look at the right-hand side of your YouTube screen, I don't think, we could probably get it going soon where I can take comments from Facebook and YouTube. That'll be a lot of things going off, bells and whistles. You can make comments. I see a couple comments already. A couple folks saying good morning. Well, good morning, good afternoon to you guys. And you can make comments, and I will read them. If you want to make a Super Chat comment, you can chip in a couple bucks in various currencies. I've seen Mexican money. I've seen Swedish kroner. And it makes your comment in highlight, and it sticks it to the top of the page there so I can read it at liberty. And by the way, we get the dough. So it's sort of like a donation. In fact, it's exactly like a donation. So that helps us keep the lights on here. There are a couple of things I want to show you today. I've got some Associated Press Trump derangement. I want to show you. Associated Press is not just a large wire service, that they're one of the official fact checkers that Facebook leans on to censor you. I want to show you a clip from Bill Gates about Donald Trump that made me laugh, and it made me scratch my head too. I want to show you something I didn't get around to doing yesterday. John Oliver, the U.S. comedian, he's not really U.S., though, he's a Brit, praising or defending Venezuela. You don't see a lot of that these days. You don't see a lot of Hollywood types actually still standing up for socialism in Venezuela. I mean, Sean Penn, Oliver Stone, they've sort of shut up about it, Bernie Sanders even, but not John Oliver. And finally, I want to tell you some startling news, some concerning news about our own dear friend Katie Hopkins and what has happened to her this week in Molenbeek, the Muslim enclave, a no-go zone in the Belgian capital of Brussels. So I will get to that story about Molenbeek before we're done. But we call it Free for All Fridays because I really want to take as many comments. The comments are the fun part. Right? I mean, if you want to hear me going on at some length in a monologue, you can tune in my 8 p.m. Eastern show. I do a lengthy monologue. Today I talk about a court case in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where a Muslim man raped a housekeeper in a hotel. And this is right after another rape case involving a Muslim migrant cab driver. There's been a spree of rapes in taxi cabs in Halifax, all by Muslim cab drivers. They're all Muslim. And Halifax does not have a large Muslim population, but all these cabbies who have been charged are Muslim. And one of the things I'll show you tonight is the police there have officially stopped describing the men because it's racist to do so. So they say the man has an accent. They used to say, look, Middle Eastern has an Arabic accent, but now they just say he has an accent. Vad, he talks like this maybe. He's got a Yiddish accent. If you say we're looking for a man with an accent, hey, me lucky charms. Is he having an Irish accent? Ach, mate. Does he have a Scottish accent? What, I'm gonna drive you somewhere. Is it a Russian accent? If you just say someone has an accent, you are not describing him. You're not describing him. Is it an Italian accent? A French accent? If you just say someone has an accent, you will not find your man. Which maybe is the point. Maybe they want to stop catching all these rapists because it's just too embarrassing. Better to have a rapist on the loose than a racist on the loose. That's the motto of half a dozen police forces in the UK. I fear that's coming to Halifax too. So I go heavy on that story tonight at 8 p.m. And I'm going to do a little bit of the accent thing tonight at 8 p.m. I'm going to take some comments and then I'm going to show you the deleted tweets and the Bill Gates clip. Let's take a look at what people are saying. Oh, Marilyn Nelson, that's very friendly of you. $50 super chat. That's super nice. That's a very nice way to start the show. Appreciate that. Sheila Gunn says, I'm here for the... I didn't do my accents very well. I have to really like Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, I have to really get into it. I have to really get into it. And of course my accents, they all just sort of blur. They all sort of blur together. I am going to do one more impression, and this will probably land me in front of the Human Rights Commission. There was an old Bacardi commercial about 20 years ago, and it was very funny. You could probably find it on YouTube. You know, so many of those old commercials come back for a second life on YouTube 20 years later. And it was from somewhere on the islands. And you know who did a great Jamaican accent is the late Rob Ford. And he had all the lingo down pat. And there was this Bacardi rum commercial, and it was in some tiny little Caribbean island, and there was no traffic there. Like, it was just like one car stopped behind another car, and there were like chickens there. And one guy said, "Total gridlock! You're giving me road rage!" And whenever I go to the Caribbean, which is not that often, but we've gone on some cruises before. We went on a Rebel cruise, a Western Standard cruise, a Sun cruise. I wait all year. I practice that impression all year, that Bacardi rum commercial. I wait. We get on the island. We go to there's one stoplight on the whole island. I'm not even kidding. I think the island of Castries. I think they literally have one intersection with a traffic light. And I had been waiting all year with that joke. You ever do that? You ever have a joke that you wait for a year? I waited a year. And I think it was Castries, the name of the island. And there was one traffic light on the island, and we stopped at it. And I said, "You're giving me road rage! Total gridlock!" And I got a little bit of a laugh, but it was worth waiting a year. Okay, total gridlock. That's what, Evan, sorry, you're correcting my pronunciation. Yes, Sarah, my fish is sick. I remember that ad. It was so funny. You know what? Can you find that ad? Can you total agree? You're giving me road rage. I didn't mean to get into my accents, but we got 149 people watching now. I should get on with the show. Quick question, Ezra's first of regulars. Do you have a royal correspondent for the wedding? Not really, but Jack Buckby in the UK, who is one of our UK voices, has some videos, and they're a little bit controversial, I have to say. We love the monarchy here. I mean, I know there's some Republicans, and I know our American friends don't quite understand why we love the monarchy, but it is an important thing for us, and it's a check on politicians. It's a check on overweening politicians. That's what I think of the monarchy. I think it's also a sort of tradition. And these days, when we're trying to extirpate every sense of history and culture and nationalism, the royalty is a link to the cultural past of Canada and the UK. We don't want to lose it. That said, Jack Buckby is quite critical of Meghan Markle, and he has a video to that effect. You can go and see it. Any luck with that commercial? Let me know when we get it. In the meantime, I'm going to move on. I'm sorry, Sheila, you shouldn't have encouraged me to do accents, because A, I'm going to get a human rights complaint out of it, and B, my accents aren't that great. But thanks to the team says they have the ad. Can I show you this ad? I loved this ad so much when I was younger. I literally pocketed this joke, and I would wait a year for just the right moment. Take a look.
Hey driver, you're 43 seconds late.
According to my watch, I am not late.
Hey driver, she's right.
You are behind schedule. You give me road rage.
If we Caribbeans took life as seriously as the rest of the world.
Okay, well, we only saw a part of that ad there. Well, I want to dig up the part. Total gridlock. You're giving me road rage. If we can find that part. It's 12:09, and really all I've done is say road rage. So let me get back to the news. All the impressions are out of my system now. There was a series of ads, and if you can find one, we can do it. Let me get a little bit serious now. This is what happens when I go off script and random Fridays, free-for-all Fridays. Okay. There's a super chat. Let me find it there. Justin Phillips, Scoop, Stephen Del Duca violated campaign finance laws. You know what? You're talking about an Ontario Liberal MPP, and I've tried to understand what's going on there. It seems a little bit inside baseball. I think I saw Doug Ford attend a rally with some labor union folks against Stephen Del Duca. Forgive me, I'm not that well briefed on that. I think it was the Liberal government that were sort of blackballing one union in favor of another. So it's an interesting story, but I just have to tell you, I haven't focused on it. I don't doubt it's an interesting story, but I'm not an expert on it. Let me show you something that I have thought a lot more about. Associated Press, they've been around for a century, I'm sure. It's like Reuters. It's a massive news wire. What is a news wire? It's basically a collective of reporters, and instead of writing for any particular news outlet like Fox or the New York Times, they write for the Wire, and people can subscribe to the Wire service for their local newspapers. So you don't have to have 200 newspapers each sending a reporter to the White House. You can have one AP reporter. They file a Wire report, and everyone on the Wire, used to be wired, now it's wireless obviously, would get a copy of the story. And that's why you see in a lot of newspapers, especially since they've gutted their own internal staff, you just see a lot of Wire copy, which is like a generic story that like 100 newspapers will carry the same thing. It's basically shared news gathering, but it's very powerful because, like I say, hundreds or even thousands of newspapers, radio stations, TV stations around the world just buy the Wire copy. And it's regarded as, I mean, not the gold standard, but it's so ubiquitous. It's like Coca-Cola. It's like the standard. Oh, and if you're not drinking Coke, you're drinking something weird. The AP is normal, standard, because it's so ubiquitous. The trouble is, it's no less susceptible to liberal bias than anything else. And in fact, the AP itself is quite extreme in its liberal bias and its Trump derangement. And thus it bothers me that Facebook specifically has chosen AP as their authority for fact-checking your news feed. They're going to be the official fact-checker for stories they don't like. Well, who's going to fact-check the fact-checker, and why should they be granted some superiority? Why can't I be my own fact-checker? And let me show you, the other day, as you know, Donald Trump, we showed this yesterday, Donald Trump was talking about the MS-13 satanic cult gang. Like these, they're satanic, they tattoo their faces, and when they kill people, they don't just shoot them. They shoot them and they chop them up into 100 pieces. And I'm sorry to get gross, I'm not going to give any more details. It's brutalistic. Donald Trump called them animals. I think that's not an unfair thing to say. It's a rough thing to say, but it's accurate. All the media said, he's calling immigrants animals. No, you liars. He called MS-13 animals. It was crystal clear. It was in specific reply to a question from a sheriff in Fresno who was talking about how she had a tough time fighting MS-13, and he responded by saying, they are animals. And every journalist from the New York Times to the Associated Press said Trump calls immigrants animals. Well, the AP had a correction, and they deleted their old tweet. Well, look what someone did. They searched Associated Press for the word deleted. Can you see that? Can we make that any bigger? This is a series of tweets. AP has deleted a tweet about Gaza protesters that incorrectly described the Gaza Strip. AP has deleted a tweet about Fresno. God is great. It failed to note he said it in Arabic. AP has deleted a tweet incorrectly stating the timing of Trump administration's lawsuit. Mischaracterized what Trump tweeted. Incorrectly attribute. Do you see the theme here? Deleted a tweet incorrectly stated China had raised tariffs. Deleted a tweet about French far-right politicians' visit to Trump Tower. Tweet should have made clear she did not meet with Trump. Deleted a tweet that incorrectly said the NRA had banned guns. Again and again and again, do you see a theme here? Every single error that caused them to delete tweets. Oh, and plenty more for which they held firm and wouldn't delete a tweet. Do you see the direction that every single error went there? Every single error was a bias towards the left and attack on the right. Mischaracterizing Trump, lying about Trump, misstating a fact about Trump. I mean, listen, you get it wrong, you're going to get it wrong this way, that way. If it's like a dartboard. You're shooting for accuracy right in the middle. And sometimes you're going to aim this way or that way. When you're throwing darts and you want to get the bullseye every time, but every single error, you're on the left, every error. Did they ever have errors like that about Barack Obama when he was president? Did they ever have errors like that during the campaign about Hillary Clinton? Did they ever have errors about Justin Trudeau, our own drama teacher, Prime Minister here in Canada? No, they do not. You can find that meme, it's online. Every single error the Associated Press makes is an error that benefits the left at the expense of the right. They're just as biased as anyone else, and those are the fact checkers. All right, I called it Free For All Friday. I'm going to check the comments. Pete Henderson made a $4.99 super chat. Thanks very much for that. You know, appreciate the help. Pays the bills here. And I want to say thanks again to our $50 super chatter, Marilyn Nielsen. That's awfully nice of you. It's 12:15. I'm not going to do any more impressions. They're not that good. And I swear we're going to have human rights complaints. And we got enough of those going on. I'll tell you a story a little bit later. John Zealand said, AP hates Trump, so no mistake. Yeah, it's no mistake. It's, you know, if you wanted to be a leftist activist these days, you could be a community organizer, you know, like Barack Obama was, like Saul Alinsky was. But you could, you could join a journalistic organization, keep your partisan bona fides quiet, and just slowly tilt the news. Who would be more effective? Someone who says, I am a Democratic Party activist, and now let me tell you what I think. Well, you would immediately discount them. Well, that's a partisan saying it. Or let's say you were a Democratic activist, but you just didn't say that out loud. Let's say you went to work as an editor for the Associated Press. Who's going to be more powerful? And who's going to sneak through our defenses of skepticism? Yeah, AP. I see there's another super. Marilyn Nielsen says, Ezra, could you please read my super chat sent with the $50 contribution? Thanks. Okay, I'm going to look for that because I'm looking at it. I'm sorry, I can't find the comment that you wrote with that. Can you write it again? Because I'm looking.
Not Superchat.
You could just write it as a normal comment. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to make it a super chat. I just can't see the actual question you had, Marilyn. So if you just retype it again as a regular comment, I'll read it, and my team will say it in my ear if they see it and I don't. While we're looking for that, Marilyn, feel free to write that again. I want to get your question. I'm very, very curious what you want to ask me. I want to show you a little video I saw, and it's from Bill Gates. Bill Gates is one of the wealthiest people in the world. He briefly was. Actually, for a while, was the wealthiest person in the world. As you know, he was the brains behind Microsoft, and he's become an outstanding philanthropist, and he really tries to be a scientific philanthropist. You know what? I mean, good for him. He's giving so much of his dough away. I'm not sure if he's as good at being a philanthropist as he was at being a businessman and a computer engineer. And that's okay. I mean, when you give away your own money, you can do with it in any way you please. He likes to get governments to match him. And remember, Stephen Harper, Canada's former Prime Minister, was chummy with Bill Gates and teamed up with him for maternal health. And no, that's not code for pushing abortion on third world countries. It was actually maternal health. Helping pregnant moms and moms in childbirth. So, you know, give some kudos to Bill Gates. He's trying to be scientific about it. And he met with Donald Trump, and he had a conversation with Donald Trump. Now, if I ever had the exciting opportunity to talk to Donald Trump, the president, I would be excited about it. I would want to tell everybody about it. But I would always say, well, you know, if it was a private conversation, and if I learned things in a private conversation that were either controversial or salacious, I would feel some sort of obligation to keep the privacy of the conversation, or at least it would be a heavy decision before I said, well, you know what Donald Trump told me in secret. Because if you don't have the trust of the president, he's probably not going to talk to you again. And I guess if I thought, well, I would never be invited back to talk to the president again, I don't care, let me cash in on it. But a guy like Bill Gates, I mean, he probably wants to have an ongoing relationship with Donald Trump. Not because he likes Donald Trump as a man, but because Donald Trump holds the most powerful office in the world. So Bill Gates did, in fact, meet with Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was Donald Trump. He was funny, he was unusual, he was personal, he said things. And yeah, I bet, especially since everyone in the world talks about Donald Trump, imagine you just had a meeting with Donald Trump, you're going to want to tell everybody in the world that. At least you and I would. But if you're an extremely wealthy man like Bill Gates, do you really, really need to scratch that vanity itch of boasting about your conversation? Well, without further ado, can we play the clip of Bill Gates? There were a few clips on there. There was a 20-second one, there's one that's a little bit longer. Let's play this long one, because I think it's about 2 minutes long. I want to play a 2-minute long clip. Oh, Marilyn, I see your Super Chat comment. I'll read it right after the clip, okay? Actually, I'll read it right now. Get that clip on standby. Marilyn says, Ezra was asking you to show your 2011 sketch of you portraying Mark Delahunty haranguing Rob Ford. That was funny. That was funny. Thank you, Marilyn, for writing that. I didn't see this comment before. I'll ask the team to see if they can dig that up, because that was at the Sun News Network. I dressed up as Mark Delahunty, and I was almost as pretty as she was. I don't think I've ever put lipstick on before. Anyhow, thank you for that fond memory. We'll see if we can find that clip. It was at the Sun. I'm not sure if we have that. But without further ado, let me show you 2 minutes of Bill Gates yapping about his private conversation with Donald Trump. Take a look.
I never met Donald Trump before he was elected. There was a thing during the election where he and I were at the same place, and I avoided him. Anyway, then he got elected, and so I went to see him in December. He knew my daughter Jennifer because Trump has this horse show thing down in Florida. In fact, he went up and talked to Jen and was being super nice. And then, like 20 minutes later, he flew in a helicopter to the same place. So clearly he had been driven away, but he wanted to make a grand entrance in a helicopter. Anyway, so when I first talked to him, it was actually kind of scary how much he knew about my daughter's appearance. But Melinda didn't like that too well. Anyway, so I saw him at Trump Tower. I said, hey, science and innovation is a great thing. You should be a leader who drives innovation. And that conversation was about a broad set of things in energy, in health, in education. Pick things you want to do that are big. HIV vaccine, you could, accelerate that. Be associated with innovation. And then the second time I saw him was the March after that, so March 2017 in the White House. In both of those two meetings, he asked me if vaccines weren't a bad thing, because he was considering a commission to look into ill effects of vaccines. And somebody, his name is Robert Kennedy Jr., was advising him that vaccines were causing bad things. And I said, no, that's a dead end. That would be a bad thing. Don't do that. Both times he wanted to know if there was a difference between HIV and HPV. So I was able to explain that those are rarely confused with each other.
Donald Trump asked a question, and it was a question he wanted an answer for, and he's so dumb. I told him the right answer. I mean, I guess I know the difference between HIV and HPV just because I guess I'm in the news business and I follow that. I don't know if you go on the street and ask a normal person if they know the difference between HIV and HPV. I don't know if they know. Maybe the President of the United States should know that. I would have thought he would have known that, but maybe he's not an expert on diseases like Bill Gates has styled himself. Bill Gates has spent the last 10 years focusing on diseases, malaria, for example. I told you about maternal health. So of course it's old hat to Bill Gates. If a president of the United States asked me a question that I thought was sort of dumb and simple, I would answer it in a way that tried not to embarrass the president, and I would say, wow, I have a real role here because he feels comfortable enough asking what I think are dumb questions, and I feel like I have a great privilege in giving him my answers. And you heard, a lot of people are skeptical about vaccines, and Trump asked Gates what he thought, and Gates gave him good advice, I think. Don't go down the anti-vaxxer road, it's a dead end. Be on the innovation road. I think that's good advice Bill Gates was giving him, don't you think? I respect vaxxers and they don't want the state meddling with their body, but neither do I think that we should abandon vaccines. I think Bill Gates is probably right. And I'm glad Donald Trump is worried about civil liberties, and I'm glad he's open-minded to dissenters, aren't you? Aren't you glad that he'll actually know enough about dissidents and and people on the margins, and he won't just immediately write them off. He'll actually ask a question. And maybe some of the questions he asks are dumb. Maybe it is dumb to ask the difference between HIV and HPV, but I think it's probably dumber not to ask if you're not sure. But now what we know is it's dumbest to ask Bill Gates, because Bill Gates, for some cheap laughs from some liberal college kids, will tell tales out of school, will gossip, will kiss and tell. And his story about Donald Trump knowing too much about his young daughter, it was certainly said with an innuendo that perhaps it was sexual or something. The story of Trump making a return in a helicopter, maybe that's true. But even if it is true, I would just ask you again, if you are a billionaire philanthropist who wants to save the world, why would you sell out the privacy of a conversation with Donald Trump? There's nothing particularly scandalous in there. You've just violated the confidence of a conversation with the President of the United States for what? For some cheap laughs? Do you think Donald Trump's going to have a private conversation with Bill Gates again? I sure wouldn't. Okay, so for the next 7 years, Bill Gates has just basically cut himself out of having a positive role in the country and therefore in the world. I think Bill Gates is a force for good. I think he's way too pro-abortion, and he funds abortion especially for minorities. I think if he stopped and thought about what he was doing, he'd realize it's creepy, his obsession with sterilizing the third world, e.g. visible minorities. But on the whole, I think Bill Gates is a good person, and it is a shame that because he's such a gossip, like most liberals and most people in Silicon Valley are, he's just burnt his bridges with the president. I think for the sake of a quick laugh, I think he actually showed that for a smart guy, he can be sort of dumb. Let's take a look back. I'm going back to the live chat here. Holy cow, there's some more super chats. Keith McIntosh, Ezra, why don't you have in-video ads like Shapiro? I'd buy a ShamWow or a Snuggie if Sheila was hawking it, and maybe get a fine clothier sponsor. I've been watching you with that red whole jacket for years. You're right. You know what? I should never have gotten this red thing here, because you see this red thing, oh, it's that jacket again. I've got 3 jackets. I should probably get a 4th. Or just cover this up so people don't see that it's the same jacket. It's just a jacket I throw on, but all right, I'll stop wearing it. In terms of in-house ads, we advertise some of our own internal stuff, but yeah, we should advertise other things. We basically have outsourced that to Google, YouTube, and banner ads and things like that. But yeah, it would be nice to have a particular sponsor. Well, let me put it this way. I mean, for about a year, my 8 p.m. show was sponsored. My desk was sponsored by a company in Alberta. If you're interested, or if you know someone who wants to sponsor this, I could do a readout. You could send an inquiry to ads@therebel.media. Henry Wall chipped in $5. Thank you very much for that, Henry. Let me see if there are other super chats that I've missed along the way. I'm just scrolling back up. Ezra's first irregulars can't do accents. Comedy must be stifled in Canada. Of course I can do accents, and I did do accents. I'm just saying that I'll be hit with another human rights complaint before you know it. I've scrolled up. I think I've caught the super chats. Pete Henderson, $4.99. Thank you for that. All right, let's just check the time. It's 12:28. Well, you know what? On the subject of ads, why don't we run an ad for The Rebel Live? And I know I've been showing you this ad every day, but it's coming up in just a few weeks. So let's pay some bills. Look at the ad.
We're going to discuss topics that the political elites and the media party don't want us to discuss. Political correctness be damned.
Passion isn't enough of a principle to guide the world by.
Perhaps we are in better touch with the pulse of the country.
We are in this fight with you, and you're all in this fight together.
If you see over the last few years, there's been this populist movement going around the world.
That's the status of the left at this point, is I don't know if you're the Onion or the New York Times.
Postmodernism is a sophisticated philosophy. Now, it's wrong, but it's deeply wrong.
We're simply people with another point of view.
Hey, welcome back. I was just looking for that old Marg Delahunty skit I did back at Sun News. I can't find it quickly, but if we can find it, we'll dig it up. I see another Super Chat comment come in, very friendly. Henry Wall chipped in $5, appreciate that. And VM Parliament says, any plans to write another book? Loved your others. Well, that's nice of you to say. Last book I did was just over a year ago. It was called Trumping Trudeau. And it was well received. I cranked that out in like 3 weeks because it had to be a really quick book. I wrote it between the election of Trump and his inauguration, so I got that out quick. We might have a book for you that, I don't want, we're just sort of percolating. We got some ideas, but I might have some news for you sooner than you think. Thank you very much for that friendly support. Let's check the time. It's 12:30 on the nose. What do we do here? Well, we do Super Chat. You can make questions and comments. I read some of all of them, but I read all of the Super Chat ones, which are people chipping in a few bucks, so I appreciate that. I'll read a few of the regular ones till I get more Super Chats. Faye Knox says, what about the clip Marilyn sent you $60 to play? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The when I dressed up as Marg Delahunty from This Hour's 22 Minutes, and I put on a skirt, and I put on a wig, and I put on some makeup, and I pretended to be Marg Delahunty. So we're looking for that. That was some years back, and that was at the Sun News Network, so we don't have it in our own system here at the Rebel. During that ad for Rebel Live, I was Googling things. I was Googling Ezra Levant, Rob Ford, Marg Delahunty, 22 Minutes. There's so many things that come up when you type those words in. Our team, I can see them, are working on it right now. If we find that, I promise we'll show it. And if we don't find it today, we'll show it sometime next week. You need acidity for digestion, Matt. Okay, I'm just reading things. Heather Dawn Arwin, sending loves from Sacramento. Well, that's pretty friendly. Thank you for that. Faye Knox says, what about the clip? Okay, I read that one already. Matt Getty, tell that to the hundreds of people Dr. Sebi cured during his life. Okay, we're talking about vaccinations. I'm not an expert in vaccinations. I respect people who don't want the government to order things in their blood. But I also respect the fact that vaccinations do generally work. And I think we have to find the balance between personal liberty and public health. And I think that's what Donald Trump was inquiring. And I think Bill Gates actually probably could help find the solution. Too bad he wanted to get some cheap laughs instead of actually helping the president. W says, I love this show so far, Ezra. Well, that's nice of you to say. Tammy Putinsk Zandbelt says, use a Sharpie, Ezra. A Sharpie on what? John Zealand, if Trump wants to get propaganda out, tell Gates. Yeah, I guess he's a blabbermouth. Jamil Nick says, Dear Mossad, why you love Soros so much? Well, I'm an opponent of George Soros. I don't know if you know this, but I was sued by George Soros. Do you know that? I guess that's 7 years ago now. I wrote a column in the Toronto Sun about George Soros and what he did when the Nazis rolled into Hungary, how he bicycled around handing summonses to the Jews to go report for the trains to take them to the death camps. I wrote about that, and let me tell you what I said. I said that I don't necessarily blame a teenager for doing what his dad said to do to survive the Holocaust. And who knows what we would have done, teenagers, whatever. I'm not excusing it, but I'm not really condemning it. What I condemned very specifically in the column that had George Soros sue me is decades later he was interviewed by 60 Minutes. And they asked him about his role in the Holocaust. Because not only did he bicycle and deliver summonses to Jews to bring them to their deaths, but he was placed with a non-Jewish family and pretended to be a Gentile, and that's great. But he would go around with that non-Jewish family and expropriate property from Jews. Like he actually helped the Nazis. Now, I'm not saying that, again, you're a teenager, you're trying to survive the war, your dad tells you to do it. I'm not going to be too judgmental. But decades later, when he went on 60 Minutes, I think it was Steve Croft. I bet we can find that. Hannah and Justin, can you Google Steve Croft, George Soros? I bet we can find this video. He was asked, do you ever lose any sleep over what you did? So it's not, did you regret at the time? It's, you helped bring Jews to their death. Did you ever lose any sleep? And he said he did not. And I read his various biographies. He said it was actually the most exciting time of his life. George Soros, instead of having this hole in his heart from what he did, that he collaborated in sending the Jews to their deaths. Even if he was told to do so by his dad, even if he didn't do so, someone else would have done so. And that's what he said. He said, if I wouldn't have done it, someone else would have done it. All right, I don't know if that's a moral excuse, but decades later to say it was the most exciting time of your life, that's gross. I wrote that in the Toronto Sun. George Soros sued me. So that's my Soros story. Looking for some more Super Chats here. I think I saw one. Henry Wall, what are your thoughts on the Lawton controversy? Well, my first point is that I think Andrew Lawton is a conservative commentator, and he's former media. In fact, he used to do podcasts and videos for us. I don't know if you know that. And so anytime a journalist with any spice in their commentary goes into politics, someone's going to go through thousands of their comments on tweets, on radio, TV. So yeah, they found some things that Lawton said over the years, none of which are disqualifying. I mean, some of them are right-wing, but yeah, he's a right-wing guy. Since when does the media get to tell other media they can't say it's ridiculous, the attacks on him. But I find his excuse, well, I said those things when I had mental health issues. I think that's a social justice warrior cop-out. Now, maybe that's a form of judo, saying, oh, you're going to try and get me kicked out because I said conservative things in the media. I'm going to out-liberal you and say, oh, what are you some sort of discriminator against mental illness or something? But why not just own it? Why not say, those are my points of view? Maybe I could have been more nuanced, or maybe I agree with this, or I should have said it this way, but just simply say, yeah, all those hundreds of things I said as a conservative, that was mental illness. I don't buy it. I'm not criticizing mental illness, and I know that Andrew Lawton had some challenges before, and I totally support him. I consider him a friend, by the way. But to say, oh yeah, the conservative things, that I was crazy when I said those, I think that's a cop-out. I just hear in my ear from my friends that we have various clips, so let's start. I want to start with the thing I most recently referred to, which is George Soros. Here is an outtake of George Soros being interviewed on 60 Minutes, where he says he absolutely loses no sleep at all from the fact that he delivered summonses to the Jews of his town to go to their deaths. Take a look.
You're a Hungarian Jew who escaped the Holocaust by posing as a Christian.
Right.
And you watched lots of people get shipped off to the death camps.
Right. I was 14 years old. And I would say that that's when my character was made.
In what way?
That one should think ahead, one should understand and anticipate events, and one is threatened. It was a tremendous threat of evil. I mean, it was a very personal experience of evil.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all. Maybe as a child you don't see the connection, but it created no problem at all.
No feeling of guilt.
No.
For example, that I'm Jewish, and here I am watching these people go. I could just as easily be there. I should be there. None of that.
Well, of course, I could be on the other side, or I could be the one from whom the thing is being taken away. But there was no sense that I shouldn't be there, because that was, well, actually, funny way, it's just like in markets, that if I weren't there, of course I wasn't doing it, but somebody else would be taking it away anyhow. And it was whether I was there or not, I was only a spectator, the property was being taken away. So I had no role in taking away that property. So I had no sense of guilt.
There you have it. That was Dinesh D'Souza who put that clip up online. You could see he was doing it with his book, The Big Lie. So yeah, that's George Soros. I basically wrote about that, and he sued The Sun, in which I wrote it. So I'm no fan of Soros. I think we have one more clip, and this was in reaction to the Superchat request. Do we have the Mark Delahunty clip? We do, and this is silly. For our American viewers, I see some folks from Sacramento, I see some folks from the UK. We have this awful government comedy show. I know, how do you have government comedians? Those two things don't go together. I mean, comedy, there used to be a position in the royal court called a court jester. And let me check the time, it's 12:40. You know what a court jester's role was? To entertain anyone, but it was much more important than that. The court jester, by custom, had immunity from the punishments that would come from offending the king. So the court jester had an extremely important job. I mean, you know, they would have someone whispering in the ear of the Roman emperor, "You are just a man, not a god," because he would, just to keep his ego in check, a slave would whisper in the Roman emperor's ear. Well, that's sort of the role that the jester would play in the English royal court. To say things in jest that everyone else was thinking, but they couldn't get away with it because their political careers would be dashed. So the role of the court jester was not just to make the king laugh, but it was to say things to the king in humor that no one else would dare to say because it would ruin them. They would be punished for defamation or whatnot. The jester could say it and say, "Ha ha, just a joke, my lord." That's what government comedy is supposed to be. But in Canada, we have a state broadcaster called the CBC, and we have government comedians, and they're the opposite of the court jester. They mock the weak and protect the powerful, lest they lose their paycheck. So they have a show in Canada called This Hour's 22 Minutes, extremely unfunny. It's basically the Liberal Party's talking points set to a laugh track, much like a lot of comedy is in late night TV on the States, except for that's not paid for by taxpayers. Anywho, in Canada, there's this unfunny comedian, and I'm not going to call her a comedian because she's just an activist who shouts and they run a laugh track under it. So I dressed up as her, Mark Delahunty, and she has a character where she has a sword and sort of just bellows. And I got to say, I don't think it's particularly funny, but we had a $50 Super Chat request to play it from Marilyn Nielsen. And Marilyn, you want it? You got it. Here's me pretending I'm Mark Delahunty, the government comedian.
Hi, it's me, Barge Delahunty. From this 22 minutes feels like an hour. I'm here at Toronto City Hall. That's the mayor's inner sanctum. I understand he's talking about busting the labor unions to pick up our garbage. I'm gonna go in there now. If I don't make it out alive, well, long may your big jib draw. Let's go.
Yeah, no, we gotta figure out a way to head off this garbage strike. No, the city can't afford another garbage strike.
He's talking about the garbage strike.
No, it can't happen. We gotta figure out a way to get these unions. No.
Mayor Ford! Mayor Ford! Mayor Ford! Barge Delahunty from this 22 minutes feels like an hour. Are you doing some more union busting? Oh, you're talking about garbage strikes, are you now, boy? Well, every time you leave the office, you take out the garbage. Got 'em! I'm Barge Delahunty. From this 22 minutes feels like an hour, and I've sneaked into City Hall to find Mayor Rob Ford. Follow me. I think he's inside here, boy. Mayor Rob Ford. Mayor Rob Ford. Where are you? Oh, smells like conservative policy making in here. Mayor Ford, it's Barge Delahunty. What are you doing? Oh, Lord love it, like Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and the seven. Oh, what's that? What's that? Is that your Tory policy platform? Got him! Mayor, Barge Delahunty. Hey, you stay where you're to. We'll come to where you're at. Mayor. Why do you keep running from me, Mayor? Barge Delahunty. From this 22 minutes feels like an hour. Got him! I'm Barge Delahunty. From this 22 minutes feels like an hour. actually in Rob Ford's home. The chicken coop. That's his bedroom in there. Let's go catch him unawares. Oh, Lord Thunder, he's like a beached whale, isn't he? Where's Mrs. Ford? There's trouble in the house, isn't there? Mayor Ford! Mayor Ford! It's Mark Delahunty! Mayor Ford! Mayor Ford! I gotta give you a big smooch, Mayor Ford! Oh! Mayor Ford! My eyes are up here, Mayor Ford! Look up here, that's my eyes! Got him! That was funnier than I remember. But you know what? Not that funny. We threw a laugh track under it. That's all they do at this hour has 22 minutes, or as I called it there, this 22 minutes feels like an hour. Marilyn, I'm so glad you reminded me of that. I forgot about that video. That was fun. That was fun. You know what? I should do things like that more. I think I'm too serious in my old age. That's probably 5 years ago or so now. I know you're thinking, what's that got to do with anything? Well, that unfunny comedian, Mark Delahunty, would basically jump up. Can we find one more clip? Can we find the clip of Mark Delahunty actually going onto Rob Ford's home property and shouting at him until he went back into his house? Because you're probably saying that was weird and sort of funny maybe, but what was it all about? Like, who's this beast of a guy chasing down the mayor and shouting at him? Well, that was actually me lampooning what they actually did to Rob Ford at his home. Anyway, we're going to look for that. I think I saw some more Super Chats come in. That was fun. That was fun. I forgot how much fun that was. Primple08 says, Ezra Van Mark Delahunty haranguing Rob Ford. Videos on Pinterest.ca. Yeah, thanks. We finally founded our team here. Kathy Griffin, a comedian, threatens the president. Yeah, well, it's just, yeah, I mean, it would be as if Kathy Griffin worked for a state broadcaster. It's just not that funny. Anyway, so people seem to like it. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Oh my God, so funny from VM Parliament. Carrie O'Rourke, hilarious. Ezra, Ali Clark, hilarious. Maximus Minimus, that was funny. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. I'm sort of chuckling. Holy cow, the time is gone. It's only 12. It's already 12:47. This is too much fun. I didn't even get to half my stuff here. I'm going to show you one more video. The original. You're probably saying, well, Ezra, what were you doing dressing up like that and throwing around your little Newfoundlandisms, Jesus, Joseph, Mary, and the Seven Saints, stuff like that. Well, it was based on this. Take a look.
Mayor Ford, it's me, Mark Delahunty.
Oh, but Mayor Ford,
because I gave up the Princess Warrior stuff, but when I saw what was happening to you, I came all the way from Newfoundland to talk to you, honey. The plug in the jug, keep the muzzle undug. There's a much gutsier kind of fella than that.
Yeah, it wasn't really funny, is it? I mean, and that was on his property. He was driving his young children to school, and Mark Delahunty stormed onto the property. That was just some clips from it. Just stormed on the property, shouted at him. She said, I got to go to school. I got to go. And she just shouted at him, and then finally she left and ranted. Was she any funnier than I was? I don't think so. She's left wing, I'm right wing. So what's the difference between us? Well, she gets paid handsomely by the state broadcaster. That's the difference. And that's why it was wrong. All right, it's 12:48, and we've had a lot of fun here. And I didn't get around to my John Oliver comments on Venezuela. We'll do that next week. It's not really time sensitive. I want to show you something that happened to our friend Katie Hopkins. You know who Katie Hopkins is? She's our talent from the United Kingdom. Very interesting woman. Came to prominence from The Apprentice UK. You know, the Trump's show was franchised over there, The Apprentice UK. She became a columnist for the Mail Online, and she's a real rebel in the best sense of that word. So she went to Molenbeek, which is a Muslim enclave in Brussels, Belgium. She went there just last week to do journalism. She did fun stuff. She went to all 22 mosques. That's a big journey. She wore a burqa to fit in. But can you believe it? She was just on the street, and she literally ran into the mayor on the street. In fact, the mayor came up to her and said, don't sit on that bench, it's filthy. Okay, when the mayor says don't sit down on a public bench because it's filthy, you listen to the mayor. But Katie knows a bit about the mayor of Molenbeek, who has called her own city a breeding ground for violence. And Katie asked the mayor, since they were talking anyways about the filthy public infrastructure, why did you not do anything when police told you you had a terrorist in your town? Why did you not do anything? The terrorist went on to help commit the Bataclan terrorist attack that killed more than 100 people in Paris. Enough talk for me here. Take a look. Here's an excerpt from the interview with the mayor of Molenbeek.
But if 130 people died and 415 people are injured, if that was my daughter and you said, but it wasn't our job, I would really feel angry at you, wouldn't I?
Yes, of course, and many people were angry.
Still angry, every day.
People were angry.
Are angry.
About what's happened. I understand.
Yeah, but that you were given a list and you said it's not the job. You were given a list.
No. This list, those people are maybe supposed to be concerned by
the terrorist activities.
Not the terrorist activities, the jihadist activities.
I don't think it makes it better. And still no one did anything. Of course.
That's your
I am angry because I live in London and my children are at risk every day.
Yes, and I'm living in Molenbeek and in Brussels, and we have the same feeling.
But what if, given that list, you'd just gone out and grabbed those people?
No,
nothing would have happened. Paris wouldn't have happened.
You don't understand.
No.
The police local can arrest people. We are not
able.
Voilà, it's not. We can't. We just can catch people when if they
do something. Yeah.
On the fact, but we can't arrest people.
That's not how it works. Thank you. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate you being kind enough to speak.
Hey, man, you can't do anything, man. I mean, you can't expect police to arrest people. I mean, come on. I mean, I know, yeah, but you know. I don't know why I did that accent. That's real. I mean, what are the odds? Bumping into the mayor and asking the mayor why you had a list of more than 30 jihadis in your town. You had that list 1 month before the Bataclan attack. Why did you do nothing? Well, it's not for my police to do, some other police force. Really, you're the mayor of Molenbeek. If it's not your job, whose the hell job is it? Well, it's some federal place. You know, it's not my job. It's not my job. It's not my job. I know some people are angry. It's not my job. How does she still have that job? Well, I think maybe she has that job precisely because she does exactly what the people in the Muslim enclave want. I mean, just to be clear, I don't know if it all came through there. One of the terrorists who committed the Bataclan attack in Paris returned to Molenbeek, Belgium, to hide, and managed to hide in that town for 4 months. How do you have the most wanted criminal terrorist in Europe? Like, this was the worst terrorist attack in France since the Second World War? Or was it 130 people were murdered, if I'm not mistaken? Massive manhunt. How do you hide in a small town for 4 months? Well, you hide with the complicity of the people who live there. They don't regard you as a fugitive, they regard you as a hero. So how does the mayor stay in power? Well, she does what the people of Molenbeek want, or she won't be mayor for long. I think the people of Molenbeek vote for a mayor who turns her eyes the other way on terrorism. Because if you actually had a tough on crime, tough on terrorism mayor who would say, yeah, I'd better arrest someone, well then the extremist population of Molenbeek would vote you out, wouldn't they? I see a super chat out of the corner of my eye. Nelson Thal said, wouldn't it be nice to go back to pre-metric days? Fahrenheit is more accurate anyways. All right. We can talk about that another day. Nelson, I appreciate the $5, but I want to say one thing before, because it's already 12:54. So I haven't closed my story on Katie Hopkins. So that was I thought it was a great interview. And that went viral. And so did Katie's other videos she did from Molenbeek. And then guess what happened? Can we call up, I don't know if we can find it quickly, one of the Belgian newspapers. That mayor, and she said it from her own words. Look at this. Molenbeek mayor to sue British journalist for defamation. Hold it up on the screen here. Francois Shepmans accuses journalist Katie Hopkins of trying to break Molenbeek. Hey, sorry, sister, it's already broken. The mayor of Molenbeek is seeking to file a civil suit against British journalist Katie Hopkins for depicting the Brussels neighborhood the European capital of jihadism. What this journalist did is inexcusable, Molenbeek Mayor Francois Shepman told Belgian outlet Le Dernier Heure on Thursday. In her comments, she's shown a real desire to break Molenbeek. Katie Hopkins earlier this week stopped Shepmans in the street and grilled her on local authorities' apparent failure to detain Salah Abdeslam, one of the perpetrators of the 2015 Paris attacks that killed 130 people, despite the fact he was known to police. Shepmans, who claimed she was not aware she was speaking to a journalist, really? What's the big camera? What's the big camera there? And that the interaction was being filmed. Yeah, we had a camera. You looked into the camera. Responded by explaining that local authorities were not in a position to detain Abdel. That is the job of the federal police. Inspector Clouseau, you should call Inspector Clouseau. He will find these perpetrators and bring them to justice. It happens to me often that a person on the street comes out. Okay, what's with all the impressions and the accents? Would you please forgive me for that? I'm making light of actually a serious situation. The mayor of Molenbeek is suing Katie Hopkins for that interview. The words she said herself. How is it even defamation when you're the one saying the words about yourself? Katie said, here's questions. The mayor said, here's answers. The answers were embarrassing. How can you sue Katie Hopkins when you're the one who said the embarrassing things about you? And don't tell me you didn't know. What do you think that camera was? We had a team. We had a cameraman. It wasn't just Katie with like a hidden pen. There was a guy there. Did you notice it wasn't Katie holding her own camera? Oh my God. I should tell you, we've hired a lawyer in Belgium, and we, I won't get into our legal instructions with them, but obviously we're going to fight. Obviously we're going to fight. What do you think? I showed you the interview. You can find it. You can find the whole thing on our website, but I showed you over a minute of it. What do you think? Katie Hopkins is being sued by the mayor of Belgium because she's going to break Molenbeek. It's already broken, sister. It's already broken. That's a real thing. I read you the article. We've hired a lawyer. It's real. I don't know if the site is live now, but go to savehopkins.com. If it's not live now, it'll be live momentarily. Save Hopkins. Yeah, there it is. A Belgian mayor is suing me for the crime of journalism. Savehopkins.com. Do you want to save Katie Hopkins? It's not even Katie Hopkins that's being prosecuted. It's the idea that you can do journalism about terrorism and terrorist coddling mayors. That's really what's on trial here. I see it's 12:57. I see a few super chats creeping in. Let me make sure I respond to them. We'll talk about Fahrenheit and Celsius another time. I'm sorry, we just don't have time today. Mike DC, $105. Isn't it unreal hijab hoax is international news and the honor killing story is swept under the rug? Thanks for doing that story. It needs exposure. Tune into my show tonight at 8 p.m. because I'm doing more in that vein. We've got other things I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you a promo for John Cardillo's show Off the Cuff tonight. I just don't think we have time because it's 12:58. I wanted to tell you again that our SaveTheChristians.com DVD is now, you can pre-order it and you can download it for video on demand anytime. And I wanted to show you an excerpt from my show yesterday, but look at that, the time flew. I was too silly today. I sort of regret all those dumb accents I did. I totally don't regret showing you my Mark Delahanty thing. I remember doing that. I remember dressing up. And you know what made that? The laugh track, because it wasn't funny. But same with the government journalists at this hour's 22 Minutes, the government comedians. They're not funny. You throw a laugh track under just about anything. It's very powerful because the thing about a laugh track is you feel like other people are laughing and so you want to laugh along. Okay, this is the time to laugh. Everyone else is laughing, I better laugh, or it means I didn't get it. A laugh track is an extremely powerful psychological tool, like all soundtracks are. And I discovered in that very unfunny clip I did that if you add a laugh track, you know what, let me just tell you one last thing. It's 12:59, I have about a minute left. On YouTube, there's this thing, and it's very powerful. You can find your favorite comedy show, and just type into the Google search bar. What's that? Not Third Rock. What's that? What's the nerdy No, I forgot it. It's the show all the kids watch about these nerdy, smart kids and the one pretty girl and whatever. The Big Bang Theory. I don't know why I called that the Big Bang Theory. Type in the Big Bang Theory no laugh track. There are people out there who take the audio and delete the laugh track. And you watch Big Bang Theory without the laugh track, or any of those shows with the laugh track, you will be shocked at how unfunny they are. Do it. Go on YouTube. Big Bang Theory no laugh track. You will be shocked. It is such a powerful propaganda tool. And that is why late night comedy is so effective. They are not funny when they attack Donald Trump, attack Melania Trump, attack Mike. They're not funny. But you throw a laugh track under that? Yeah, of course I don't like Donald Trump. I mean, everyone else will laugh at. No, it's just the psychological power of a laugh track. You know, I have an app on my phone, a laugh track app, and I don't use it enough. But when people say things, I would sometimes push the button and get a laugh track. You know what? I know it's 1 o'clock. I know we're out of time. But it's just called Studio. I'm going to show it you right now. Let's say someone tells you a really dumb joke, or let's say they ask for something from you, and it's ridiculous. Just hit the button that says laughter. Oh, my mic is off. There we go. My sound is off. You just play that, it's a great little app. I got to use that some more. As a strange note to end on, but I want to be serious. Katie Hopkins is being sued for reporting the journalism out of Molenbeek. We've hired a lawyer in Belgium. I'm joking around. Today was a very jokey show. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because Friday. Maybe because I was just remembering that jokey thing we did on the Sunday News Network. But we actually are being sued by the censors in Europe. And I don't even know the law very well over there. Article 275 of the Belgian Criminal Code specifically provides punishment for embarrassing or insulting politicians. They have different laws than we have in Canada, the United States, and the UK. They don't believe in free speech as much. We're going to fight like hell. If you want to help us, please do go to savehopkins.com. I enjoyed the week very much. Thank you to everyone who chipped into the Super Chat. It's 1:02. We're 2 minutes late. So I should tell you, we're not doing the show on Monday. In Canada, it's Victoria Day. So we're taking Monday off. But I will be back on Tuesday. For all of you who have been joining me these lunch hours, for our Super Chats, thank you for that. For all of you who have chipped in financially, I really appreciate that. And for all of those of you who watch my stupid impressions without cringing too much, thanks for that. I thought it was a great week, and today was a lot of fun. Good night, everybody, and keep fighting for freedom.